Assassin's Creed Origins was a major turning point for the AC franchise. Gone are the days of small maps and counter kills, now replaced with replicas of entire countries and an RPG system. This was to the dismay of many fans, while a welcome one for others. After Unity and Syndicate's subpar release, Ubisoft Montreal had a big undertaking to begin. Not only did they have to make a game that would revive the AC franchise, but they also had to switch genres in a smooth and satisfying way. In this review, I will go over all of the changes and whether this switch was for the better or for the worse. This video will most likely be quite long, at least by my standards, that is. So buckle up and get ready for an extended review of Assassin's Creed Origins. Now quickly to remind you, I'm not going to be ragging about this game for 20 minutes straight. I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I criticize this game for removing old features, that does not necessarily mean that it's bad and that I don't like them. I'm just pointing out things that really didn't need to change, and might have possibly been better as they were. And also, a little side note, for those worried, there will be no spoilers, so keep that in mind. But anyway, you've waited long enough, on to the review. So Origins was an awkward period for the franchise, really coming straight from the old formula and setting up the new. It never fully commits to the RPG aspects fully, such as dialogue choices, while levels and quests are prominently featured. In this weird mismatch between the two genres. Not that it doesn't work, mind you, it just never commits enough to one side of the coin for it to be a great RPG or AC game. Valhalla also suffers insanely from this problem, but because Origins leans less on the older aspects such as social stealth, the newer or older elements never seem to be out of place in the gameplay. Upon startup of the game, you'll notice a few things: the discovery tour and save slots. Standard with most RPGs is the ability to start new games and play again from scratch. During Origins' genre switch, it also took this feature, and it's a much needed one. In old DC games, you were never able to go back and experience the game like you did for the first time, but in Origins onward, it's always an option. Now as for the discovery tour, this is also a welcome addition to the franchise. You control your character and are able to walk around Egypt at your own leisure, with the narrator explaining parts of everyday life. From the Hippodrome to the founding of Alexandria, it has it all. It's a great way to get sucked into the world of Origins and learn some really great history while you're at it. Speaking about history, did you know that ancient Egyptians always had bad teeth? Well, that's because sand rolls would get baked into bread and would eventually wear down their teeth. This is one of the many things that you can learn while on the Discovery Tour, and I'm glad it's becoming a staple in the newer games. I felt like I was just advertising for Ubisoft, and I don't really like that. But if the game really does sell you on one thing, it's the majesty of it all. The majesty of classical Egypt and the vast deserts that made up much of it. The original startup fully captures everything you're about to experience during your 25 to 30 hour playthrough. And perhaps the second best way to show it is in the world itself. Riding a horse along the rolling dunes of Egypt will never get old. The game designers masterfully created this world. You'll find yourself getting sucked into classical Egypt at every stage of the game. Capturing a synchronization point or climbing the Great Pyramids of Giza for the first time is something spectacular. It's almost magical the way it feels. Everything about ancient Egypt is blended so well together. When you're riding your carriage over the desert and then the music starts to play, it gives off an otherworldly feeling. And the attention to detail in this game is next level. If Bayek spends too long in the sun, you'll start feeling the effects of heat stroke, and so will you. It might start raining scarabs or having a meteor shower. And also, if Bayek is speaking with the mask on, his voice will be muffled.
To the desert alone, you will die.
It just really goes to show how much effort the devs actually put into this game, and I respect them for it. They could have left the hallucinations out, and I certainly wouldn't have cared. But the fact that they did this shows a true dedication to game making and attention to detail. But how do I talk about Origins' atmosphere without talking about the soundtrack? And where do I even start? It's one of the best pieces of music, in general, I have ever listened to. Sarah Schochner absolutely nails the whole vibe that the game has going, and the music is just so good. I truly have no words. If you haven't already, please go check her out. She designed soundtracks for Modern Warfare, Valhalla, and even parts of Unity. So just go check out her work. You really won't regret it. But now, 5 minutes in, what you all came here for, the gameplay. And as I said earlier, Origins is a transitional game, but never fully commits to any of the ideas it sets forth. While these are all connected in the full-fledged RPG named Odyssey, I still think it's worth talking about since this is a separate game. One of the major aspects it is missing is dialogue choices. This may have been better for the game because we all know what happens when a character doesn't have a set personality. But nevertheless, missing from the older formula is practically everything. Parkour has been simplified to a disgusting degree. No longer is there complex button presses, wall ejects, and ledge grabs that the older games had. Assassin's Creed Signature has been butchered. Now it's been replaced with the exhilarating action of holding A. And that's not all. Wait, what? Okay, let me just go through my notes real quick. And, actually, what I just said, because that's just it. The one and only skill that you need is the ability to hold the right stick and press A. Wow, exciting, I know, right? And unfortunately, that's as far as parkour goes. Holding a button. The old AC parkour has been gutted and left to dry in the sun. Everything that made the complex movements and sophisticated leaps so entertaining is gone, removed with the introduction of RPG elements. Now, I've been asking myself, why couldn't there have been a compromise? Just remapping a few buttons isn't that hard to my knowledge. Ubisoft is a multi-million-dollar company, but can't find a way to make RPG elements blend with a sophisticated movement system. A wordless removal of a great system. On another account of changed things, the combat. And I may be one of the first you'll ever hear say this, but I actually love Origins combat. Keep in mind, I am only going by Unity and Syndicates, because when I compare games, I wouldn't want to compare it to something that I haven't played. But Origins combat isn't even a blend of the new and old combat. It was brand new for AC at the time. Removing the slower combat of Unity is the fast-paced, Dark Souls-like fighting style. Well, it's actually very loosely connected to Dark Souls, but I just couldn't find an apt comparison. But anyway, as I said, Origins operate on a light, heavy hit combo fighting style. Light hits deal small damage but in quick succession, while heavies can break shields and deal way more damage at the cost of speed. It takes an intricate balance of knowing when to swap moves to deal the highest damage possible. Fighting is fast and ferocious, with multiple enemies attacking you at a single time. There is no area to take a break. Dodging will be crucial, being able to dodge every single attack that comes your way. But this isn't the only way to deflect incoming damage. New to the series is a shield, something fans have been asking for forever. You'll be able to access the shield to aid you in your defensive capabilities. It can block all but the mightiest of attacks. You also find great use of the parry tool. When an enemy's hit is about to land, press B while your shield is equipped to temporarily stun these enemies and leave them open to a counterattack. But watch out. Not all attacks can be blocked, indicated by red glow. You have to dodge or roll. Instead of constantly holding the shield and striking, you need to think, should I roll or parry this strike? Is it a combo or is it not? All these things have to go through your head before you make a move. It's a large skill gap that rewards players for having a deeper understanding of the game's overall mechanic, and none of it is told to you. The game will never tell you that a heavy attack can't break a tower shield, but only a charge attack can. The game is not going to hold your hand and walk you through how to do everything, even if that would have been better. Before learning about the charged heavy attack, I was left stumped after dying repeatedly to the tower shield bearer. This leads into another one of the problems that I have with the game, the abilities. Some basic and fundamental skills are kept locked from you until you've leveled up enough, namely the charge attack and the parry. As I said previously, I had no idea the charged heavy attack was even a thing until I looked at my abilities. It made me truly feel like an idiot. But what about those people that never truly cared to take a deeper look at the skill tree other than seeing what next skills there are? It locks a player out of a ton of content they may not even know is there. Another culprit of this is the parry. Yes, believe it or not, the parry is locked behind a skill. Never seen this skill until now? Sucks for you! You realize you spent countless hours struggling when you could have just bought a parry. I know you can find it pretty easily, but skills like this shouldn't be something that you're locked out of, especially when it's never told that these things exist. And yes, you can probably tell that I'm salty. But the possibly worst offender is healing. That's right. Without buying a skill, you cannot heal mid-combat. Who put this through? Maybe it's to push XP boosts or some crappy Ubisoft move, but hiding the heal button as a skill is not good game design. Now, getting more healables in something like Jedi Fallen Order is fine, because you can still survive with 2 stims, and it encourages exploration. But not being able to heal at all is atrocious. At least give us the skill automatically and replace it with the faster healing. You don't force people to grind XP to be able to have something they should have had since they booted up the game. Huh. It reminds me of Valhalla's transmog. But enough trashing on this game, because what it sounds like so far is that I don't like it, but that is not the truth at all. But now, stealth. Assassin's Creed other iconic feature. I'm glad to say, it hasn't been butchered. Sure, it's been nerfed as the game encourages melee fighting over all else, but all things considered, stealth is still a viable option. But the biggest change is the removal of one-shot assassinations. Now, these still exist, but higher level enemies aren't taken down so easily anymore. Instead, assassinations only take a chunk out of a high level enemy. Now, I do wish that assassinations were always one-shots despite the level, but the leveling is a problem for later in the video. However, not being able to one-shot commanders is something I truly enjoy. Commanders are the most powerful standard enemies you will ever face. Unlike the other grunts, they can't be taken down so easily. Taking down these guards will require strategy, no more random assassinations. This one will be planned. Either clear the whole fort and then take down the commander, or move silently and take shots with a bow. The game gives you many options on your approach. Do with it what you will, but the game gives you as many ways as you want to take down an enemy. Be it using your weapons or throwing fireballs at them. There are many ways to dispatch a foe. You have to use your creativity. You might not be able to one-shot them with a bow, but could you light them on fire? But someone might hear them. Is it worth a chance? You will have to decide. What's the best way to take down someone given the circumstances? But enemies will now move on a complex day-night cycle that you can use to your advantage. Enemies are constantly moving, and Origins is the first AC game to use the night to its full potential. The options are weighed on what to choose. Night isn't as visually appealing, but guards will take longer to detect you. Like always, you have to weigh the risk and reward. You might not see the person, but half the posts may be empty due to someone sleeping. It's all there for you to decide. Enemies also act like real people. If they come across a dead body, they will investigate it. And if you stay long enough, you may notice them carrying the body away to an unseen location. They may also talk about how they will meet in the field of reeds. It makes you feel like you actually did just kill someone, took a life. Depending on who you are, this might be a good or bad thing, but your killing is justified because of a horrible act of malice, and the game gives you a good one. I won't get into the spoilers, but I will speak about it. The game sets you up with a great motivation to hunt down these evildoers, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounce his name, but Abubakar Salim's performance as Bayek sells it for me. He delivers some of the most emotion I have ever seen in a voice actor. His performance skyrockets how likable Bayek is. A lesser VA would never have been able to sell me on him, but this man does. And because of this, Bayek is one of the fan favorites in the entire franchise. Because despite his story being questionable at best, he is a great voice actor voiced by an even better actor. But now for the story itself. Much like all of Assassin's Creed games, it has you track down and killed a multitude of people. But the problem is that none of these targets are truly memorable. Out of 10 people you need to assassinate, only 2 are memorable. And the most memorable one is like the first guy you assassinate. This sets up a huge problem that I have with the narrative. And that's just that it's not that memorable. Sure, it had its moments that I won't spoil, but other than that, it was pretty meh. But when it does do its moments well, it hits the nail on the head, such as Bayek's introduction scene. This is one of the best character intros I've ever seen, and I love how it sets up Bayek. But you guys just have to watch it to actually know what I'm talking about.
Medjay from Siwa. I thought Medjay was supposed to protect the pharaoh. I am Medjay to no pharaoh. You see this? I can read my own name, Nat! We will find you. We will find you in your sleep! Sleep? I never sleep. I just wait in the shadows, and I will kill you all! Everyone who sniffed the air that day in Siwa!
But can you see what I'm talking about? It is dark, gritty, and most importantly, memorable. Everything this game should be. But unfortunately, this does not carry through the whole narrative. Moving on from the narrative is the quest structure. And one of the changes removed, you guessed it, tailing missions. And thank God for that. Those were annoying as all hell. But now side quests dot the map, much like they did normally. Little mini narrative quests that Bayek, as a Medjay, must undertake in order to keep Egypt safe. Some of these are really memorable, such as the Final Fantasy crossover or the Son of Ra quest you see in the background, but others not so much. Not many of them excel, or, as I've been talking about, aren't memorable. More time should have been placed into these, just to make each side quest fun and exciting, except we only got tons of cobbled messes with a few diamonds in between. While still on the topic, I need to talk about confessions. You know, those scenes where the assassins talk to their victims? Those are here and in full force too. Instead of the standard speaking roles, things began to get a bit trippy. But these confessions are really to show the villain's motivations and drive, and I really appreciate the fact that they exist, unlike in Odyssey. Well, finally, we need to talk about progression. Upon completing missions, you will get XP. This will then help to level up and gain more power. Simple enough, right? Well, yes, but actually no. The power jumps from one level to the next is catastrophic. Good luck fighting an enemy even 3 levels above you. The leveling is so strict, and enemies are so much more powerful than you, that it truly hurts to fight them, in more ways than one. I talked about one-shot assassinations earlier, and this is where they become relevant again. I could excuse the commanders if they were always one-shot assassinations, but they aren't. There is no efficient way to take one down other than chipping away at their health bar, and if you want to do something else and take it on once you're high enough level, things start to become a problem. Leveling takes an incredibly long time to occur. It might take 1 or 2 hours of grinding side quests to level up once. So if you're trying to take on a fort, you're gonna have to wait a while until you can successfully take it down. But still on the topic of progression is the way you get weapons. There are many different types of weapons, all of which play extremely differently. And this was one of my complaints about Unity, lack of weapon variety. But I'm happy to say Origins fixed this issue. Each weapon is unique and has its own perks, such as being on fire, gaining health for a kill, or poisoning an enemy. These are all great and can be used to create an individual playstyle focused on whatever you want. New to the series is also bows. There are 4 types: Standard, a shotgun-esque warrior bow, the strong but slow predator, and a light but fast bow. These can be added to your playstyle however you want, and it makes each of their uses needed. Predator bows aren't good in combat, so you can switch to a light bow. So many different ways to customize your loadout and your playstyle. Well, how do you make weapons stronger, you might ask? Well, by visiting a blacksmith, I say. For the cost of some in-game currency that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, you can bring a weapon up to your current level, increasing its damage. This works quite well as it adds a fluent progression instead of being able to buy the most powerful weapon with enough money like in Unity and Syndicate. It has a real nice balance between how strong weapons are compared to the enemies. Well anyway, that's going to be my extended review of Assassin's Creed Origins. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, but I hope it turns out nice since this is the first time I'm doing something of this scale other than 100 days. And I have to say a few things first. Unfortunately, I will not be making 300 days in Minecraft because of my last video's poor performance, and for the Camp Cretaceous fans, I have not forgotten about you. Next will be a Camp C video, but I just wanted to make sure I'm catering to everyone. But thank you to everyone who watched, and if you made it this far, have a good day.